Glock 45, 125 yards. Welcome back all, On Point Firearms Training, Brooker, Florida. Today we're going to talk about modifications or possible upgrades to your stock firearm. Sometimes I get a lot of questions in certain classes or certain events we host. People want to know what modifications I've made to mine. Not all modifications are necessary, and not all modifications are needed by everyone. So today we'll talk about a bone stock firearm and my upgraded. They're identical sidearms, so we'll give you the pros and cons of each. And I do want to reiterate, most importantly, no modification is going to overcome or compensate for poor fundamentals. If you want to be accurate, if you want to be consistent, and if you want to be fast, fundamentals are always where it's at. Okay guys, so we've got our two identical sidearms here. Well, I know I'm going to get crushed in the comments. We've got a Gen 5 Glock 17. It's got about 500 rounds through it, almost brand new. And I've got my Gen 5 Glock 45. I'll give you a reason as to why I feel that they're more closely related or identical to using two Glock 17s here in a minute. But my Gen 5 Glock 45, I'll be realistic, it's got 20,000 plus rounds through it. Haven't had a single issue, and it functions flawlessly every time. Not looking to upgrade anything internally. I don't see any parts wearing when I'm cleaning it or doing maintenance. And we'll touch on that in another feed. So the Glock 17 is bone stock. Glock 45, I've got quite a few aftermarket upgrades. We'll get into one at a time each as to what they were for and pros and cons of each here in just a minute. So first, guys, we'll go through the obvious differences between the two. That would be what you can see visually first. So to me, the first thing that pops out is the big box that's stuck on top of the slide. That's a Holosun optic, and it helps me a lot because I'm one of those shooters that I have to close one eye, or I need to close one eye when I'm using iron sights. I carry a sidearm for a living, and also when we're doing scenario-based training, engaging multiple targets on the range, closing one eye is just slower, and it's not as safe. You mess around, get tunnel vision, you can't transition between targets, on and on. So with the optic, I can keep both eyes open. I can use my peripheral to see where I'm going next, or to see if there's more threats actively about to engage, in peripheral vision. So next, guys, I think it's pretty obvious to see that on the Glock 45, the next thing is this piece attached to the end of the barrel. And this is why I chose a Glock 17 with my Glock 45. The Glock 45 actually has a shorter barrel than the 17. However, with this aftermarket part, it has a new barrel, so you can attach this compensator to the end. The reason this compensator's on there, if you'll notice, it's ported on top. It's supposed to use gases and the energy from the weapon to keep the nose of the barrel down instead of forcefully shooting it backwards or up, so you can stay on target better. And the aftermarket barrel makes it the exact same length as the Glock 17. Therefore, I chose to use the Glock 17 because the barrels are the same length. As you can see here, side-by-side comparison, exact same length. And with the aftermarket barrel and the compensator, any Glock 17 holster will work perfectly. Next, we'll talk about internal upgrades. I think the most important, or my favorite upgrade, is aftermarket trigger for the Glock. Nothing wrong with the stock Glock. They are smooth, crisp, and function perfectly. However, for speed and most importantly for distance, stock Glock, I can take 30, 35 plus yards, and I can hit paper plate all day long. With my Glock 45, with that 2-pound trigger, it is so smooth and easy to pull. I am accurate at 75 and 80 plus yards with that thing. I can hit a paper plate all day at 75 yards. My reasoning for the 13-pound or just the lighter recoil spring, whenever you're shooting or double taps, bill drills, whatever it may be, the faster you can come back on target after firing a single round, the better. So with the 13-pound spring, far less muzzle rise. With the compensator, far less muzzle rise. So between the two, bill drills are so much faster for me. We'll do a couple of demos here in a minute, and I'll run through the factory Glock and my upgraded Glock. I'll grab the shot timer, and I haven't done this before. We'll see if spending this money was worth it. Hopefully the wife doesn't watch these. First we'll run the Glock 17 factory Glock mag. Not sure if we can see it. 4.29. Glock 45 with upgrades. All right, hopefully we can see that. 2.82. As you can see, for me, it's much faster. Next, I want to get a little bit of feed. I'm going to do a mag dump with each gun, try and see muzzle rise, see if you can actually see a difference or not. So that was a complete mag dump with the Glock 17 and 4.57. We'll try the same thing with the Glock 45. .79. So now what I think will make the most difference, I'll squeeze off a few rounds from distance. I'll start at 25 yards. I'll use each pistol. Each pistol will get 3 attempts. If I hit it on the first or second, I don't have to shoot again. Once I miss 3, that pistol's out. Starting with the Glock 17. .25 yards. Glock 45, 25 yards. Glock 17, 40 yards. Glock 45, 40 yards. Glock 17, 60 yards. Glock 45, 60 yards. Glock 17, 75 yards. No go with this one. Glock 45, 75 yards. Glock 45, 100 yards. Glock 45, 125 yards.